Hello everyone, this is the Nano3 from AKK. This is another one of those VTXs that just go right to the back of your camera. If you need a super lightweight or tight build, you can just take this and put it right on the back of your camera. It fits neatly and snugly right back there. We first saw this with, I believe, Furious had an OSD, a Piggy OSD they called it, that did this. But anyways, that was a long time ago. We have a button selector here that selects our bands and our channels, and with a 4-second press that also switches between the power levels. It only has two power levels, 25 milliwatt and 200 milliwatt. This is our input, obviously. It does come with a little pigtail if you wanted to run the micro-LOSI 1S batteries off of it. The input of this is 3.2 volts to 5.5 volts, so you have a little bit of headroom there. So you definitely don't want to connect this to VBAT on your flight controller. And then we have a accoutrement of wires here. We can power our camera here. Now to this day, they keep making these so long, but I guess it's because you don't know what kind of installation you're going to have. But anyways, I do micros. I guess you could be using this for any sort of build. And it seems to me, why are they coming out of the top as well? Because I guess you could depin this, and this pinout might fit some connectors. Let's see, that's 4-pin. No, it's not going to work on this one. So at the very least, you're going to have to snip this off in order to get it on a camera. Depending upon the camera that you've got here, this is kind of a cheapo depot, no name sort of camera. 2.3 millimeter lens is not even my favorite, but that's kind of the placement. If you're unfamiliar with these, they just kind of go back here, and then you have a couple little screws that you put through there. You can also use a spacer, but this does not come with that. And I find that a bit surprising, because you do need to have a little bit of a spacer in there. Otherwise, it's going to make your installation a bit tougher, and you're going to have to source stuff. So hopefully that is just my review sample does not come with those things, and the purchase samples do, but be sure to check the specifications on the website. I would normally suggest that you power your camera. So your red and your black go from your VTX into your camera. Your VTX has a regulator built into it generally, and that will help clean up any sort of power signals, so lines on your FPV feed, if you give it that second layer of filtration from the flight controller to the VTX and then into the camera. The yellow wire is if you have an OSD, you run that back to your flight controller, and from the flight controller it has a video in and a video out, and it comes back into your camera. And our green line is for smart audio. Now I believe this one has the implementation that doesn't require that kind of that hacky part in Betaflight that makes it work. So I know that the Butterflight people, I think we're going to keep that going forward, but who knows? I don't study those things, so you need to do your own research on there. Now, I have absolutely nothing that needs this right now. So what I thought I would do was just to show you, in case you don't know, how to get this working on a flight controller. If you haven't wired up smart audio, we can take a look at that. I've got a flight controller here. I do believe I've got an extra UART. This is a used flight controller here, of course. This is an F4 flight controller. It's micro with an OSD chip right on it. So I want to wire it up to that, and I do believe via USB power, I should be able to power the flight controller, the VTX, and the camera that I connected to. Now I'm not going to connect it to the camera tightly. I'm just going to probably use a little bit of foam tape in order to just get an image that we need. So I'll come back with the wiring. As some of you may have recognized, that flight controller that I was going to use does not have a spare UART, so I was not able to use that. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about this Maytech F411 that I've talked about in 2 past videos. If you remember my spiel there, this is a flight controller that many people regard highly. I have not used it outside of this myself, so I'm not necessarily recommending it here, but I do have to acknowledge that many people love this. And you can see we've got large holes in it. That is because it comes with gummies for soft mounting. You can't see them very well, but there are blue gummies right down in here. Let me pop this out. We've got the blue gummies. They go right down inside these holes. Then we have these brass fittings. They get you down to M2 for your mounting, so you can soft mount this flight controller quite easily. You do have to wire up all your signals wires for your ESCs. There is no connector to go in, so it's not quite as clean as other installs. But you can see I've got my receiver connected here, and hopefully it comes through in video just what we have. So I've got my signal wire on R2, and then I've got my 5-volt, and I've got my ground. This is the green wire. This is our smart audio, and if I fold this up, you can see that it's connected to T1. It's difficult to see down there, but you'll have to trust me. Right underneath that red wire, it says T, and 1, just like it does with R1. So that's how you connect up your smart audio via your VTX. And then up here we've got our camera connection for our signal, and we've got our VTX signal, and then we've got our 5-volt and our ground. I am powering the camera, as you can see here, off of the VTX, just as I recommended previously. That does give us a second opportunity to have some filtration, so clean video. All due respect to Joshua Bardwell, I did hear recently in one of his episodes he was recommending Funtac, and quite frankly, here, let me show it to you so you can recognize it. It's the super blue stuff here. Funtac, in my opinion, for this hobby is junk. I have been using Blue Tack. It is an Australian-based company, I believe, and this is the stuff you should get. I've been using this same clump for months and months and months. I think I've had this package almost a year and a half, and you can see I've still got quite a bit left. I just tear off bits every once in a while. Normally what I end up doing is if I think I've got a metal shard or something in here, maybe some solder, I will just tear off that bit and throw it away and just work with what I've got left. So Blue Tack, not Funtac. Funtac hardens up and it loses its tackiness after a while. Blue Tack does not. You can continue to reuse it time and time again, whereas this will harden up. So I'm going to use the Blue Tack, and I'm going to mount things down here so we can get a view. I will first stick the camera here. I'll show you that it does work. I just want to keep these components separate. You'll see I've got a battery or a pigtail here for the battery connected, and that is due to the fact that this particular board does not power your peripherals without having a battery connected to 5-volt, or the voltage from the USB port does not power everything for us. So a little bit of a wiring mess here, but I think it's workable and doable. So again, in this particular case, or in your particular case, you need to have a board that has more than one UART, and you can know that by looking at the wiring map. If it just has TX and RX1, that is not a spare, because if it also has an S-bus pad, they're probably using the same UART or port, so you can't use them both. You need to have like a TX2 and a TX3 and an RX2 and an RX3, those sorts of things, in order to make sure you have a spare UART. I've got my receiver bound. I'm using the jumper here because it's nice and small. I'm hoping to get everything in screen. I've got the EV800D screen over here, and I'll power that on, and then we'll get everything set up, and I'll show you how this should work. So you can see here I've got an image of my desk. Camera's pointing off over that way. I'm going to get a cap, and I'm going to black that out so you'll be able to see the screen better. One thing that I forgot to include in the video was your Betaflight setup. And as you can see here on screen, UART 2 is where I have my receiver. So UART 1 is where we've connected the smart audio, and you don't enable serial RX as you see there. You keep that slider gray, but you go all the way to the peripheral side and you select TBS Smart Audio. And then you click the save and reboot button, and then you're set to go to control your VTX. Now that we've covered that little portion, let's go back to the demonstration. Now that we've got everything set up, we've got our cap on the camera, we've got our battery plugged in to power our electronics here, we have the OSD that we can hopefully see through the screen. To activate the OSD, we need to go throttle mid and to the full left, pitch full forward. There we go. Now we go into the features to control the VTX, and we go down to VTX SA, pitch to the right, or right stick to the right, and now we can go in here and we can change our channel. Let's change it. Let's go to race band 1, and let's set our power to 200 milliwatts. There's no way to confirm the milliwatts, and you'll notice that even though this one only goes up to 200, we get other outputs. You have to understand the specifications of your VTX, otherwise you're just getting false positives. And then we go down to set, we confirm, you can see we've lost our channel. Do a little bit of searching, and now we're back on to a different channel. And that's really it. So once you have things wired up correctly, it works quite nicely. This comes in very handy if you're flying with friends, or maybe a new friend has joined, or you're the low man on the totem pole and you're the one that has to change your channel whenever you join the group because the group has found sweet spots or something of that nature. Or if you wanted to get into racing, this is obviously something you need to be able to do. You need to be able to get your VTX down to 25 milliwatts, because I do believe most multi-GP races require 25 milliwatt only, so to make sure you don't get bleed over onto other channels. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the Nano3 from AKK, please let me know in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.